Imagine a document buried deep within the vaults of one of the most powerful financial institutions on Earth suddenly surfaces, and its contents are so explosive that they threaten to rewrite the entire global economic playbook for the next decade. What if I told you that this isn't the plot of a new financial thriller, but a reality that is unfolding right now, and it directly involves the future of your financial freedom and the destiny of two of the most watched currencies in the world, the Iraqi Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong? A newly leaked World Bank report, a document whose authenticity is sending senior analysts and economic advisors into a frantic, private scramble, has just laid out a detailed, shocking blueprint for a coordinated, dual-currency revaluation, an event that was once considered a pipe dream by mainstream economists but is now being treated with sober seriousness within the highest corridors of global finance. This is not another baseless rumor from the fringe corners of the internet. This is a cold, hard, analytical assessment from an institution that literally shapes the economies of nations, and it moves the conversation from a hopeful, if, to a strategic and terrifyingly real, how, and when. For decades, you and millions of other investors have held onto these currencies, weathering storms of geopolitical instability, rampant inflation, and constant skepticism, all based on the fundamental belief that their true value was artificially suppressed and waiting for the right moment to be unlocked. That moment, according to the intricate details of this leak, is no longer a distant fantasy but a structured plan being actively discussed and prepared for. The report meticulously outlines the absolute necessity of this revaluation, not as a singular event for Iraq or Vietnam alone, but as a synchronized, dual-track operation designed to create a new pillar of stability in a world economy teetering on the brink of multiple crises. The World Bank's analysis points to a global financial system that is dangerously over-leveraged, with the US dollar's dominance creating unsustainable pressures. The reintroduction of a strong, oil-backed Iraqi dinar and a robust, manufacturing-powered Vietnamese Dong into the international fold is presented not merely as an opportunity for currency holders, but as a critical requirement to rebalance trade deficits and create a more multipolar, and therefore more resilient, global monetary system. This isn't just about making a profit. The report frames it as a strategic imperative to prevent a larger systemic collapse. The leak goes far beyond just stating the why and dives deep into the how, revealing a sophisticated, two-phase mechanism that must be followed to avoid catastrophic hyperinflation or a complete loss of confidence. The first phase, which the report suggests is already in its final stages of negotiation, involves a strict and non-negotiable set of prerequisites that the Iraqi and Vietnamese governments must meet before any revaluation can be officially triggered. For Iraq, this means the final and complete passage of their hydrocarbon law, a piece of legislation that has been stuck in political gridlock for years but which would finally clearly define the profit-sharing agreements between the federal government in Baghdad and the semi-autonomous Kurdistan regional government, thereby unleashing the full, untapped potential of their massive oil reserves and providing the tangible, asset-backed confidence the new currency value would require. Simultaneously, Vietnam must demonstrate conclusive and irreversible progress in resolving its long-standing legacy of non-performing loans within its state-owned banking sector, proving to the world that its financial system is transparent, robust, and capable of handling the immense influx of foreign capital that a revaluation would inevitably bring. This prerequisite phase is the bedrock of the entire plan, and the World Bank leak indicates that behind closed doors, the pressure on both governments to finalize these reforms is immense and unrelenting, with deadlines being set that are far more aggressive than anything the public has been made aware of. The second phase, the actual revaluation event itself, is described not as a simple flip of a switch, but as a carefully managed float, or a crawling peg, system, where the initial new value is set and then allowed to fluctuate within a very tight band against a basket of major currencies, including the dollar, the euro, and special drawing rights from the International Monetary Fund. A mechanism designed to prevent the wild, speculative volatility that could derail the entire project before it even begins. This dual-track approach ensures that both currencies rise in a controlled, predictable manner, protecting the domestic economies of both nations from price shocks while systematically increasing the purchasing power and international standing of the dinar and the dong. The implications of this are staggering, and it means that the long-awaited dream of a significant return on investment is now backed by a credible, institutional roadmap. This is the information you have been waiting for your entire investment journey, and it changes everything. Now, let's pull back the curtain on the specific, jaw-dropping mechanics of this revaluation plan as detailed in the report, because the how is where the true genius and the shocking reality of this operation becomes clear. The World Bank document does not merely suggest a simple numerical adjustment. It proposes a complete architectural overhaul of both currencies' positions in the global monetary system, starting with the establishment of a definitive, asset-backed initial exchange rate that will leave you astounded. For the Iraqi dinar, the analysis strongly implies an initial revaluation rate that aligns with its pre-Gulf War strength and, more importantly, its current oil production potential, pointing towards a range that would bring the dinar to a level of parity with the US dollar, or very close to it. This is not a random number picked from thin air. This calculation is rooted in the sheer, staggering volume of Iraq's proven oil reserves, which are among the largest on the planet, acting as the unshakable foundation for the currency's new value. Think of it this way: every single barrel of oil in the ground becomes a tangible asset backing every dinar in circulation, transforming it from a piece of paper with perceived potential into a certificate of ownership over one of the most valuable physical commodities in human history. Similarly, for the Vietnamese Dong, the revaluation is not based on hydrocarbons but on human capital and industrial might. The report highlights Vietnam's explosive growth as a global manufacturing hub, its strategic positioning in the tech supply chain, and its remarkably stable and growing GDP as the bedrock for a significant upward adjustment, potentially seeing its value increase by multiples of its current rate, effectively recognizing the nation's economic miracle and cementing its status as a new Asian tiger economy. This dual-track revaluation is designed to be synergistic. A stronger dinar facilitates more profitable oil exports and infrastructure development for Iraq, while a stronger dong gives Vietnam greater purchasing power for raw materials and advanced technology, fueling a virtuous cycle of economic growth that benefits both nations and, by extension, the entire global South. But the report delivers an even more critical piece of information: the timing and the trigger mechanism. This entire process is not set to a public calendar but is instead contingent upon the successful fulfillment of those prerequisites we discussed, with the final signature on Iraq's hydrocarbon law and the certified cleanup of Vietnam's banking sector acting as the literal keys that will unlock the new exchange rates. The leak suggests that once these conditions are met, the revaluation could be announced and implemented within a matter of weeks, not months or years, catching the broader financial world completely off guard while rewarding the informed investors who have patiently held through the uncertainty. This is why the current political maneuvering in Baghdad and Hanoi is being watched with such feverish intensity by insiders. Every parliamentary session, every banking reform announcement, is a potential precursor to the main event. Furthermore, the World Bank outlines a sophisticated market defense strategy to protect the new rates from speculative attacks, including the establishment of massive currency swap lines with key allied nations and the prepositioning of substantial foreign exchange reserves to be deployed in the open market to squash any attempts to short or manipulate the newly valued dinar and dong. This level of detailed contingency planning proves this is more than a theoretical exercise. It is a battle-tested operational manual for one of the most significant monetary transitions of the 21st century. The document even addresses the domestic impact, prescribing a series of phased monetary reforms for both countries, including the introduction of new, higher-denomination banknotes and a comprehensive public awareness campaign to educate their citizens on the new purchasing power and how to navigate the initial period of economic adjustment, ensuring a smooth transition that maintains social stability. This holistic approach, covering everything from the global geopolitical stage down to the individual citizen, demonstrates a depth of planning that is simply unprecedented in the history of modern currency reforms. It reveals that the World Bank and its partners are not merely observers but active architects of this event, engineering a controlled economic explosion whose shockwaves are intended to reshape the world for decades to come, and your understanding of this blueprint now places you in a uniquely advantageous position. So, where does this leave you, the individual holder who has navigated a sea of misinformation and uncertainty to finally arrive at the shores of what appears to be undeniable, institutionally validated truth? The cold, hard reality laid out in the final section of this World Bank leak is that this monumental financial shift will create two distinct classes of people: those who were prepared and those who were left watching from the sidelines, and the dividing line between them is the action you take in the immediate days and weeks following this revelation. The report contains a stark, unambiguous warning about the immediate aftermath of the public announcement, a period it refers to as the liquidity crunch, where the global demand for physical dinar and dong notes will exponentially outstrip the available supply for a critical window of time, making it nearly impossible for the unprepared to acquire any meaningful volume of the currency at the new, lower rates. This is not a speculative opinion. It is a logistical certainty based on the sheer number of outstanding currency notes held by the public versus the limited operational capacity of the international banking system to process and verify these physical assets all at once. Your number one priority, therefore, must be to ensure your holdings are not only secure but also immediately verifiable and accessible. This means if your currency is stored in a safety deposit box or tucked away in a home safe, you must now confirm its authenticity with a professional dealer or through a bank that has a confirmed protocol for handling such exchanges. Because the last place you want to be is at the back of a mile-long queue with a stack of notes, whose legitimacy is suddenly being questioned by an overwhelmed and cautious teller. The second, and perhaps most critical, step is to immediately establish a relationship with a reputable, primary financial institution, one with a proven international desk and a publicly stated plan for dealing with exotic currency revaluations. You need to be having conversations with your private banker or financial advisor now, not after the news hits the mainstream media. Asking them pointed questions about their wire transfer capabilities for IQD and VND, their fee structures for large currency conversions, and their legal and tax reporting obligations, because the difference between having these answers in advance and scrambling for them later could translate into a difference of tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost time, excessive fees, or temporary fund freezes. The third imperative is to develop a comprehensive, written exit strategy that details exactly what you plan to do with your newly converted wealth, moving beyond the abstract dream of wealth and into the concrete plan for preserving it. This means consulting with a tax attorney specializing in windfall income and international law, a certified financial planner to structure your assets for long-term growth and generational transfer, and an estate planner to protect your legacy from unforeseen liabilities. This is the moment to transition from a hopeful speculator into a sophisticated wealth manager, because the sudden influx of capital will be a test of your financial discipline and intellectual maturity. The World Bank leak concludes with a sobering assessment that this revaluation will be a one-time, non-repeatable event in our lifetimes, a fundamental reset of the global monetary order that will create a new class of financially independent individuals. But it will also inevitably attract every manner of scam artist, unscrupulous financial advisor, and long-lost relative seeking to separate you from your resources. Your defense is knowledge, preparation, and a calm, methodical approach. The information has been delivered to you. The blueprint for the greatest wealth transfer of this century is now in your hands. The institutions are preparing, the governments are finalizing their legislation, and the clock is ticking down to a moment that will redefine everything. The only question that remains, the single most important variable in this entire equation, is what you will do with this knowledge starting right now. This is your call to action. Do not wait. Do not hesitate. Your future self will look back on this precise moment, on the decision you make after watching this video, as the definitive turning point. Get your affairs in order, secure your currency, educate yourself on the processes, and get ready for a world that is about to change forever. The event is no longer on the horizon, it is already knocking at your door.